So today I just feel like sharing a message that comes from 2 Timothy chapter 3. This isn't really in response to a question, but if I were to come up with a question for it, it would be, how much can you trust Scripture? Which we've answered multiple times in the past, but I just want you to hear this passage and ruminate on it. So starting in chapter 3, verse 16 and 17, we have, all Scripture is inspired by God and is useful to teach us what is true and make us realize what is wrong with our lives. It corrects us when we are wrong and teaches us to do what is right. God uses it to prepare and equip his people to do every good work. So on the initial, when you hear that, you are pretty much let in that, hey, all Scripture is beneficial, all Scripture is true, all Scripture is good. However, I did jump to the end of chapter 3 there, and there is a lot of context to be had, and we're going to back up and we're going to look at that context. Ultimately, yes, Scripture is good, but you do have to be wary about the people who are teaching it to you. Earlier in that passage, Paul says to Timothy, in verse 13, "But evil people and impostors will flourish, they will deceive others and themselves be deceived." And then, if we jump back even further, towards verses 6 and 8, there are the kind who work their way into people's homes and win the confidence of vulnerable women who are burdened with the guilt of sin and controlled by various desires. These teachers oppose the truth just as Jannes and Jambres oppose Moses. And those names in the back there, those are the sorcerers who went up against Moses on behalf of Pharaoh when they were turning staves into snakes and water into blood and all that fun stuff. Paul talks about it multiple times in other letters as well, the awareness that we need to have for false teachers and false teachings. When Paul says that Scripture is all valuable and all good to be used for learning and teaching and discernment, he is talking about you personally going to Scripture and making sure you're doing the research yourself. Now, certainly you should take up a pastor or a ministry or a teacher or a mentor who can help you to wisely discern Scripture and not just trust on your own understanding without the context or the scholarly advice of people who have been doing this for a long time. But at the end of the day, you do need to check the Bible. Make sure everything is accurate. Make sure that you are relying on it, because the Bible is true, but the people you're listening to may not be. Anyway, hopefully that helps, and I'll see you next time.